personally really struggle with lives. I struggle with the whole, just the pressure of it being life. um, but recently, I just been feeling like, why not? And with it being the new year, sobriety is just something that's on a lot of people's minds. With Sober January coming along, Dry January, whatever you want to call it, sobriety's on people's minds. That's me falling, and, well, not me falling, the bottle falling. And new year, so people are trying to change and get healthier and do new things. As you can see, so am I. I am currently actually stripping my hair because I have so much hair dye, so much just rubbish from all sorts of different treatments and dyes, natural dyes, chemical dyes. You name it, my hair's been through it, and it is currently really struggling to take to this treatment here, which is kind of like a super strong hair dye remover. Well, not super strong, but a hair dye remover. And I am going to be going copper, if that's the right word. I just think it's a really nice colour. It's something that I've wanted to try for a long time, but I've always been kind of too scared to. But recently I used a face, changing thingy app to try new hair colours and new hairstyles, because I thought, new year, new version. So, and then I tried lots of different ones, and yeah, copper ended up being the way to go. Hi. Thank you. That's really, really nice to hear, actually. That's exactly what I want to be doing. If there's any form of content or anything that you guys are looking for, I'm always open to suggestions of what you want to see. I am on day 160 something. I don't know, 5 months and something days. That's something I actually wanted to discuss in one of my videos that I've got coming up. It gets to a point in sobriety where all of a sudden you stop counting. All of a sudden, those first little while you spend day in, day out counting and just waiting for it to get past the hard point. And honestly, you can never really pinpoint when you stop counting, but you just eventually do. And then one day you go, oh, I don't know how long I am sober because someone asks. And you go back to your sobriety counter, and then it's just there, and you're like, oh, yeah, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, a year, and it just gets there. I personally I've done sobriety for many different things, for many different reasons, but when I chose to go sober from alcohol, I realised there wasn't a lot of content out there that kind of just gave me the support or like information that I wanted. Like, I'm a sort of, I don't know what you'd call it. I'm an information bug. I like to read. I like to learn things. So for me, getting sober was all about sitting there and figuring out what alcohol did and why my body and my brain craved it so much. And for me, once I learnt that, that was just a, it was a whole different thing. And there was a book that I read when I first decided to go sober, and I cannot think of what it was called. But it was by this guy, and he basically just sat there and just was like, well, everything you think about alcohol's wrong. It's all wrong. And I was a bit like, but this book's a bit like front, this is a bit like in your face. But slowly but surely, throughout this book, you sit there and you're like, well, no, none of this makes, like, it makes sense, but none of this is making any difference, and none of this is changing my life. Right? And I got through the whole way through this book, and I was determined it did nothing. Absolutely determined. And all of a sudden, about 2-3 weeks into my sobriety, I understood what this book was saying. Oh my gosh, that is damaged there. And I got it. It made sense all of a sudden. I wasn't questioning why my body craved alcohol, and it just made sense. And I think that is a lot of people's maybe thing with alcohol and with addiction, is you don't necessarily actually know why you're addicted. There is so many different avenues to addiction. You've got addiction because of emotional trauma, you've got addiction because of boredom, you've got addiction because of pressure, and there's just so many different avenues, and I think each and every avenue has a different way to recover from that addiction. So for me, personally, it was learning all about it. So I don't normally do lives because I don't know what to do. Hi. Hi everyone. How's everyone's new year going? So I now actually have to sit there for an hour with this absolute rubbish in my hair. So that's going to be absolutely great. But you know, what we do for beauty. So I'm entering this new year already sober. But it's such a big time for people that are going sober. You know, dry January. I personally never ever tried. But I've been doing a bit of research into how dry January can affect people's brains, their patterns, and generally how it can end up becoming a step to long-term sobriety. Personally, I thought that was mad. But I thought about it. And if you think about the fact that when you do go sober, you're more often told, well, you take it one day at a time, right? You don't need to think about what's coming, what's in the future. You think about today. Get through today, you don't drink. You wake up tomorrow and you do the same thing. That's what you're taught when you go sober. Well, that's what you do when you do dry January. You sit there and you go, right, I'm not going to drink from here to here, but I can drink at the end of January. But by the time you get to the end of January, you've already noticed all of the changes. Most people that suffer with addiction, alcoholism, dream of having. Once you get past those 2 weeks, so day 14 in January, you're past the hardest part in sobriety. Parts that people that suffer with alcoholism try and try and try and get to for years. I know I did. I personally was stuck at day 3 for months before I could even consider getting anywhere further. You know, I would sit there and I'd be like, right, no, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to keep ruining my life. Happy New Year. Hi. You know, I'm not going to keep doing it to myself, but you know, you do. Because at day 3, those cravings become crazy. It's like this entity possesses you and you're like, no, I must drink. But if you sit with it and you not wallow in it, but you allow that thought to exist in your brain for that period of time, by the time you hit 20 minutes, 30 minutes of feeling like you want to drink, you've completely forgot that you even wanted to drink in the first place and you can't remember why. Because more often than not, you reach for a drink either out of habit or out of stress. Humans are creatures of habit. You know, we build something and that keeps us safe. You know, we build a routine. We get up at a certain time, we eat, we drink, we work, we sleep. You know, we build that routine. And once that routine is disrupted, i.e., instead of coming home after work and having a glass of wine, you're like, right, so I've got to go home after work. It's been a really long day, but I can't drink. That disrupts your routine and your brain's like, well, no, I must drink. One, because your dopamine levels have dropped drastically, back down to your natural levels, possibly lower, because your brain no longer knows how to produce that dopamine anymore. But that alone, that habit breaking cycle is such a life changing step. For me, I would reach for a drink just at any point where I just wasn't okay. I suffer really severely with mental health, and for me, that was my coping mechanism. I didn't want to think about things, I didn't want to deal with them, I didn't want to process. So I didn't, and I drank instead. Before drinking, I had other coping mechanisms which were admittedly probably worse. But, it didn't have to last. It didn't have to stay. And with one moment at a time, one day at a time, I ended up in a position where I look at alcohol and I'm like, how could I ever sit there and do that? Or I'll see a video with someone drunk and I'm like, that was me? That was where I used to be, that's who I was? And it's not it's not that I miss it, but you grieve that part of yourself. You don't lose any part of yourself, but you grieve a part of yourself that you never loved anyway. Because when you go sober, all of a sudden you're like, well, actually, hey, I was all of this anyway. And that's just pretty cool. You learn that it was never the alcohol giving you that confidence. It was a pretext. You always had that confidence, but you allowed yourself to believe that alcohol was the one giving it. And when you miss alcohol in sobriety, it's not that you miss alcohol. You miss what your brain allowed you to believe alcohol was giving you. Relief. But relief is something you can find in so many different aspects of day-to-day life. And that was something that was so hard to learn in sobriety, and I know so many other people in sobriety that just found that really hard as well. Trying to discover that sense of relief again in life. Like, what is life without alcohol? How can I go out and go enjoy time with my friends? How can I go out for a meal with my husband, my wife, my partner? How can I do these things without a glass of wine or a pint of beer? And that becomes something that manifests in your brain as a big block to you even wanting to be sober. But actually, I think when I personally moved into sobriety, I actually found I enjoyed being around people more. It wasn't sad, it wasn't uncomfortable, I didn't feel forced to drink. Everyone around me was really quite just accepting. It doesn't have to be that going out and drinking with your friends is going out and drinking with your friends. You can go out and you can have a glass of Coke and it just, it still be good. It can still be fine. It doesn't have to be something horrible. For me, I think it doesn't have to be a sad thing to be sober. So I didn't start this channel to rant about just my experiences sober. I wanted to encourage other people to go sober and to help people that are sober or are struggling to stay sober. I never wanted this channel to be purely about me. That's not something I want. I want to be able to help all of you guys that are sober curious, relapsed, or just quite frankly are interested in the sober community. That's my goal. I want to be a space where people can come and join in and not feel judged in their sobriety, not feel alone or behind, because there's no such thing as behind in sobriety. Sobriety isn't a straight path. You'll never, I won't say you'll never, because actually maybe there is someone out there that sobriety has been a straight path. But on majority of the occasion, your path in sobriety is not going to go straight forward. You know, you're going to take turns, you're going to walk backwards, you're going to go roundabouts, and it's not easy. It's difficult, of course it is. You're taking away a whole aspect of your life. And that's okay, right? Because taking a whole aspect of your life doesn't mean you're taking away an aspect of you. Especially with sobriety. That itself is giving you your own personality back. Alcohol can quite often dull personalities, or in fact create an entire personality on you that's not actually you at all. And for years you can probably feel quite shit, quite alone, and quite like, well, why am I like this? But it's not like that, and sobriety isn't just, why am I like this? What's wrong with me? Why aren't I normal? You are normal. You are fine, and there is nothing wrong. Sobriety is something that's so easy to look at and be, well, this is how it should be, so why can't I do it? No. Not everyone can do moderation. Not everyone can do sobriety. It's not something that's universal. It's completely different for every single person. No one person here and one person here are going to have the exact same journey, and that's fine. And it doesn't make you wrong or abnormal for relapsing, for having a different coping mechanism, or just doing your whole sobriety journey in a completely different way. Some people read books, some people watch videos on YouTube, and some people just do it all on their own. Others go to a therapist. And each and every single one of those avenues is completely fine. But that is something that's not told, and it's not said. You know, when people sit there and they talk about getting someone with an addiction help, they go, right, well, either you need a self-help book or you need to go to therapy. It's not just that simple. It comes in all different shapes and all different sizes, just like we do as humans. So don't take sobriety lightly. It's not something that's easy.